What's up, guys? Now, welcome back to the channel. Now, today, as you already know, I'm joined by MPS Owen Messenger from the Exeter, Devon, Cornwall and Dorset Police. Now, if you didn't know already, we made a little video called Debunking Modified Car Myths with the police, ironically, and it's cleared 250,000 views on your page and almost 20,000 on mine. So guys, as a result, we've got loads more questions regarding DRLs, flamer kits, sun strips, exhausts, and much, much more. Today's video is going to be a wicked one. Stay tuned. I promise you will not be disappointed. But for now, let's roll the intro. Peace. So it went pretty well last time, didn't it?
It did. 250,000 views in 2 days. Can't be bad, can it?
Absolutely mad. So you're here today to rip my car apart again, is that the case?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
As you know, we've got loads of questions from all my Instagram followers. So let's get to it. Let's address some of the UK's most questioned modified car related queries. And yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to get started. Firstly, I think a really good question to answer to all of the viewers. What specifically regarding a modified car's exhaust is actually illegal? Is it straight pipes? There's talk of decats. There's talk of all kinds of things, but I'd love to know the specifics.
Yeah, loads and loads of questions about exhausts, and kind of expected that. The thing with the legislation on exhausts is that there's no specific legislation that says a Miltec system would be legal or a Scorpion wouldn't, or a KMS might be different. That legislation doesn't exist. What the legislation says is that the exhaust gases must pass through a silencer before they leave the system. The resonator in the middle section is a resonator, it's not classed as a silencer. Neither is the catalyst or the sports cat classed as a silencer. So if you then remove the back box, that part of the silencer on the system, then potentially you're committing that offence because the exhaust gases aren't passing through a silencer before they leave the system.
So Owen, just to finish off the exhaust related question, talk to me about straight pipes and decats. Are they legal?
Well, if you're going to straight pipe the car, then potentially you're removing that silencer from the system, so the exhaust gases aren't going through a silencer and therefore committing that offence.
Okay.
Catalytic converters, if it's been fitted with one from the factory and it needs that to pass the emissions or the MOT, then it has to be there. A sports cat should be able to pass those emissions, so if that passes it, then it's fine.
Yeah, I think in reality, most people with common sense understand that decat and straight pipe is illegal. But I suppose that's why we're here. So Owen, thank you very much for that one. Let's jump on to another question. Right, Owen, one thing I'm definitely curious about, sun strips. Are they illegal?
No, sun strips aren't illegal. There is some very, very complicated legislation that will measure to the millimetre how low you can have your sun strip, but let's talk in practical terms, okay? Does your sun strip come within the sweep of the wiper blades is probably your best guide as to what is going to be legal on your car. If it's coming within the sweep of the wiper blades, then no, it's probably too low, and that doesn't mean that you can have shorter wiper blades in order to get your sun strip lower. But just use that as a guide, and you should be alright.
Owen, this is going to be an interesting question. Talk to me about flamer kits. Are flamer kits legal?
Let's just cover flamer kits. All right, there's no specific legislation at the moment that covers flamer kits. Okay, there's nothing specific about a flamer kit. So what I would say is, if you have a flamer kit on there and it's just fitted, generally we're not going to be overly bothered about that. However, if we see the flamer kit being used, then we will have to deal with it because it is potentially dangerous, and therefore we are likely to be looking to prohibit the use of the car because it is so dangerous.
Now, Owen, a really interesting question that we've had. Now, I understand that you've got the equipment in your hand, but what is the legal limit when it comes to drink driving? Now, I can appreciate as well, there's a lot of sort of umming and ahhing regarding a question like this, because you have one person that might be 5'6", their best mate might be 6'2", they might have both had a beer. Which one is legal to drive? Please explain the differences.
Okay, alcohol affects different people in different ways. I could drink the same amount of alcohol as you, but I would give a different reading on the breath test to what you would, and that's just the way it is. By the side of the road, we can test for alcohol using the breath test machine, where we ask people to blow into the machine. And that will give us an indication at the roadside of how much alcohol's in their breath. If it's over a certain level, then we will bring them back to custody and put them in on the Intoxilyzer machine, which is a proper evidential machine that gives us a real reading of how much alcohol's in their breath.
So would you use a similar piece of equipment then to detect drugs as well, or do you have, I mean I noticed you've got something in your hand, is that something else that you use there? Or?
Yeah, so we can use a similar kind of thing for cannabis and cocaine by the roadside.
Okay. Again,
it's a screening device, and if it shows a positive reading for cannabis or cocaine, then again the person would be coming back to custody, where we would take bloods, and yeah, we will see how much is in their system.
Now, I know that you mentioned off camera that regarding the cannabis and cocaine detector, you don't actually have to have someone come up as positive on there for you to take them back for bloods. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah, although there are the limits with regards to alcohol and drugs. If we consider that somebody is impaired or unfit to drive, then we can still arrest them, we can still bring them back to custody, and we can deal with them for that impairment or being unfit through drink or drugs.
Awesome. Now, that is really interesting. Now, that does bring me on to my other point, guys. This is more addressed to the viewers, but we definitely are going to have to get a video in the future regarding drink and drug related tests. What do you reckon? Any good?
I think it's a great idea.
Hell yeah. Well, let's get on that, guys. We've got another question to answer, and let's swiftly move on. Now, guys, I am curious. Regarding noise levels on these cars, we all know that a Focus ST is pretty loud. But what's too loud? That's my question. This isn't too loud. What are you talking about? This has got a sports cat in it.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, let's just whack this off. On a serious note, Owen, what is too loud and how do you tell?
Okay, well, we've talked about exhausts and that in a previous question, but people have asked about the decibel levels.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, for a car, as it comes out of the factory, it shouldn't exceed about 72 decibels.
Okay.
Motorbikes are slightly louder, that's around 80. If we're testing with noise meters, we give you a little bit of leeway on that as well. So we'll be testing roughly around the 90 decibel mark.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So yeah, if it's noticeably louder though, we don't need to test with decibels. We can just evidence the fact that it's louder than it should be coming out of the factory.
For sure. Well, that makes complete sense. Obviously, guys, Focus STs are pretty loud out the factory anyway, and I'm sure you can agree there's not many Focus STs on the road that are quiet. However, there is a fine line between being straight piped and having a legal system like mine. But yeah, thank you very much for that one. I really, really appreciate that.
I think we're going to look at your exhaust as well in a later video.
Wait, what? So Owen, awesome little question from one of my Instagram followers. Is it illegal to have a number plate in the windscreen?
Yeah, last time you asked me the question of what's a police officer's pet hate. Well, this one's mine. Okay, no, you can't have it in the front windscreen. It's not easily readable, and the legislation says that your number plate has to be easily photographed. Therefore, it needs to be on the front of the car, and it needs to be readable and easily photographed. It shouldn't be falling off. It should be stuck on securely with screws or with the proper sticky fixes, not with Velcro, not with magnets, so it shouldn't be falling off. You wouldn't expect it to fall off a police car, so it shouldn't be falling off your car.
Right, Owen, you are conveniently placed for our next question. Talk to me about camber. Is it legal and what can you get away with?
Camber, like I said at the start, the legislation is very difficult. What I will say about camber is that it is going to affect the handling of your car. If then you are involved in an RTC and we have to look at that car and investigate what's happened, and we find that what you have done to it has adversely affected the handling of the car and may have been a potential cause of the RTC, then potentially it's going to affect the outcome of that investigation, and you might be looking at a dangerous driving because of the modifications that you've done to that car. If the vehicle was seen to be in a dangerous condition, that's quite a serious offence to be looking at. And also it's going to affect the insurance that you've got in place on that car, because the insurance are looking at any additional risk that might be from how the car left the factory.
Now, Owen, just while we're down talking about camber, it does bring me to think there's a couple people that have asked me if they have something modified and they then declare it on their insurance says, okay, great, all declared. Does that necessarily mean it's legal? I'd like to think it doesn't, because there are obviously chances that you could potentially declare something that's not actually road legal.
There are differences between what's legal and what the insurance company are looking for, and potentially what's on an MOT test. So an insurance company are looking at things from the perspective of risk. So if you're changing something on that car and they then see that as it's causing a higher risk that may mean that you're going to claim more, or in the event of an RTC, somebody else may claim more and there's a higher risk to them in their payout to you or to the third party, then that's different to what's actually legal and the stuff that we look at. So yes, there are discrepancies between MOT, the law, and the insurance, and
for sure.
It's a very, very complicated world, and I think we could do 30 videos on it and probably never get right to the bottom of it. So
because you definitely do hear of people that have got decats, but because they've insured them and they've been declared on their insurance policy, they're completely under the assumption that it's completely road legal. But in that particular example, it's not road legal, and there is obviously an indiscrepancy there with your insurance. We'll talk about that in another one. That's fine. We've got plenty more questions to answer, but I really do appreciate your help, so thank you. Right, Owen, this is a perfect opportunity to discuss LEDs, upgraded bulbs in general. Are they illegal? And please tell me why.
Okay, let's just generalise. Light bulbs, they've got to have the British Kite mark on it, they've got to be EU standard, and they've got to be suitable for the lights that they're in and that they're working in. So yeah, in general, just make sure that any bulbs that you use have that marking on them, and the beam patterns are correct, and the MOT will test that beam pattern for you.
sure.
Okay, with regards to your DRLs and the colours and things that you can have, you can't show a red light to the front of the car, you can't show a white light to the rear of the car. Okay, you also can't have blue or green lights. Blue will simulate emergency services, green are for doctors. Okay, so please don't have blue and green lights on the car. If they are on there and they are fitted, and then they should be working, and that means they should be working legally. Okay, so even if you've got a green cover on there and you say, well, they're not actually switched on, it doesn't matter. They're on there, they should be capable of working, therefore they need to be the correct colours.
Well, this is a typical example of me making just a basic mistake that the average person's probably going to be making too. You see these for sale online, why wouldn't you assume they're legal? So in this particular instance, guys, I do have some brand new fog lights to fit, video coming soon. We've got lots more questions to answer, so let's get on to those. So Owen, we've got a great question from one of the viewers. Talk to me about speed limit 10% plus.
Okay, speed limit 10% plus. The 10% is actually built into legislation, and that is to accommodate the discrepancies in speedometers as they come out of the factory. So our cars are all calibrated, the speedo is calibrated so that it is absolutely spot on. Normal cars that come out of the factory, they're not. They've got a little bit of leeway built into them, and therefore when we are enforcing speed limits, we use that 10%. Police forces will differ in the plus side of it. So some forces will say, we're just going to stick at 10%, others may say +1 or +2. A lot of forces will say 10% +2 is their threshold. Ours is slightly different to that, it's slightly higher, but only by 1%. That doesn't mean that you can go and do 10% above the speed limit and you'll be safe, because you don't quite know what your speedo is reading. So it's not worth taking that chance. Just stick to the speed limit that it says on your speedometer.
Well, you actually have to let me know when you buy a car that can go over the speed limit. I heard your Mark II RS is pretty slow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really slow.
Hey, did I just tell the viewers that you've got a Focus RS?
I think you might have.
I do have a lovely question from one of the Instagram viewers. Since when were Cupra R's added to the police fleet?
Right, well, we use lots of different cars from different manufacturers, and we use them for different purposes, really, and we'll swap them around as well, so they'll be moved around the force. So yeah, we use Skodas, we use the BMWs, we use Volvos, we use the Seats. I think we've got a couple of Golf R's as well. So yeah, they just get moved around and we use them for different purposes.
Just to finish off answering that question, are you upset that you are not a police officer in Dubai, now knowing what you've seen the police fleet are? The Lamborghinis, McLarens and all those things?
I think they've got a bit more money than us. We're hoping to get another Lotus back next year, and that'll be on loan to us from Lotus. But yeah, we shall see.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for answering that. I guess, as always, let's move on to the next one. Right, Owen, this is your chance. Engine bay open on the GC-MST. What was the question that you had? And more importantly, why have you got the engine bay open on my car?
The question was around uprated engine parts. So uprated breather kits, uprated recirc valves.
Engine mounts as well?
Like that. Engine mounts, torque mounts, that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, Ford will manufacture the vehicle to a budget. And some of those parts, you can upgrade them, and there's no real issue with that. If you're upgrading the part just to put on a better part, that's fine. As long as your insurance company know that you've done it, there's no issue with that.
Regarding things like torque mounts, engine mounts, recirc valves and all that kind of stuff, do they need to be declared on the insurance as well then?
Yeah, just declare everything. Everything you do on the car, tell the insurance company.
Even though you can't see them?
Even though you can't see them. When you have that conversation with the insurance company, they record your conversation as well. In the event of an accident, if it's a serious accident, then potentially we'll be looking and properly inspecting that vehicle.
Okay.
And anything like that we can find. And if you haven't told the insurance company, then it could cause you a problem later down the line.
Okay, so thank you for asking that one. I will get the car cleaned up for next time, but let's swiftly move on to the next question. Owen, last and final question is from one of my Instagram viewers. What do you think of car meets?
Personally, I really enjoy car meets. I'll go to car meets off duty, not to be sneaky beaky, but just because I enjoy it. I enjoy looking at other people's cars and seeing what they've done to theirs. You know, people spend a lot of time and money on their cars, and it's really nice.
Do you know what, mate? That is really
see that.
refreshing to hear, that a respectable policeman like yourself also likes cars as much as we do. You are not all here to stop and ruin our day. Ultimately, you are just doing your job. But one thing I do want to ask before we tie up today's video, why are we doing this? Why are you giving the time of day to me, just a modified car-based YouTuber? Yeah, I mean, that's it really. Please explain.
In a nutshell, we want you to be safe. We want you to enjoy your hobby, enjoy modifying your cars, but we want you to do it properly and safely. And hopefully by us explaining to you what you can and can't do, that will make it easier for you to make the right choices as to what you do to your car.
For sure. So road safety doesn't just come down to the police as well, it's also the fire brigade are actually massively involved in that as well.
Yeah, we work very closely with the fire brigade with things like Learn to Live and other aspects of road safety, and they're as passionate about it as we are. We just want to stop people crashing and hurting themselves on the road.
For sure, I definitely think we can get some content regarding that in the future. To any of those that watched the last video, we are going to get you again to do the outro. Are you ready? Do you feel like you've learned from the last time?
I think I can probably improve on the last one.
So thank you very much for reaching the end of today's video. Owen, thank you so much. Do you remember how to do the outro? Because in the last video, I'm pretty sure I taught you how. Any questions you'd like answered in the future, or anything you'd like to see regarding the police, we can potentially bring it to the channel. So, like the video if you haven't already, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe if you're new, but more importantly, Owen, let's roll the outro. So 3, 2, 1, bang.